Over in Britain, the leader of the UK Independence Party, or UKIP, Gerard Batten, has recently grasped the third rail of politics in the West, venturing where no other British or American politician has yet dared to go. According to Sky News, Batten has linked Islam to the industrialized sexual exploitation of girls across the country. This connection ought to be blazingly obvious, but it isn't, and the fact that there is even any controversy over Batten's remarks indicates how much of a fix Britain, and the West in general, is really in today. This is what Batten said. The ideology of the religion does actually, traditionally, throughout its history, make sex slaves legitimate. Their prophet had sex slaves. This was too much for Sky News presenter Gillian Joseph, who has no doubt spent years studying the Quran and Sunnah, but when Joseph challenged Batten, Batten refused to back down, declaring, "It's in the Hadith and the Quran. It's a tradition, that's okay to do that. People take their prophet as the model for all time and the perfect human being. So if he did something, then it's okay for other people to do it." To the inevitable charge that Batten is anti-Muslim, he responded in advance, saying this, "The problem is with the ideology, not individuals. I have never attacked individuals. I always talk about the ideology, and the ideology is the problem." Joseph claimed that Batten was attacking the entire religion of Islam. How? When? Where? But to that Batten responded, "It does allow their followers to take sex slaves who are not of the same religion. It is no good telling me and the world it doesn't happen, because everybody knows it does happen. It is predominantly people who follow that religion who are causing this problem. On a national scale, which is the industrialized sexual exploitation for money and for their own perverted purposes. That happens to be a fact. Determined, as are all establishment media journalists, to defend Islam at all costs and absolve it of all responsibility for the crimes done in its name and in accord with its teachings, Gillian Joseph then brought up the Catholic Church and its pandemic and ever-growing pedophilia scandal. Batten was ready for this. He said, "I'm happy to condemn pedophilia and child abuse and sexual abuse wherever it occurs. It is reprehensible, whoever commits it." Now, why is stating the obvious, that the rape gangs that have exploited and destroyed thousands of British girls have been overwhelmingly made up of Muslims, even remotely controversial? Because the denial and willful ignorance regarding the Muslim rape gangs' connection to Islam is not universal in Britain today. But to deny this is to deny an ever-growing mountain of evidence. One survivor of a Muslim rape gang in the UK said that her rapists would quote the Quran to her and believed that their actions were justified by Islam. And there is indeed an Islamic theological foundation for this behavior. The Quran teaches that infidel women can be lawfully taken for sexual use. Its allowance for a man to take captives of the right hand. See chapter 4 verse 3, chapter 4 verse 24, chapter 23 verses 1 to 6, chapter 33 verse 50, and chapter 70 verse 30. The Quran says this, "O Prophet, tell your wives and your daughters and the women of the believers to bring down over themselves of their outer garments. That is more suitable, that they will be known and not be abused. And ever is Allah forgiving and merciful." That's chapter 33 verse 59. The implication there is that if women do not cover themselves adequately with their outer garments, they may be abused, and that such abuse would be justified. But you simply can't say this in shattered, staggering, dimmy Britain today, when Labour MP Sarah Champion wrote something far less politically incorrect than what Batten has said now. She said this, "Britain has a problem with British Pakistani men raping and exploiting white girls. Labour expelled her from the shadow cabinet." Sarah Champion was axed from the shadow cabinet even though she repeated the politically correct fictions about the rape gangs having nothing to do with Islam, even as she dared to note that the perpetrators were Pakistani. She said, "The real frustration is that I don't know what motivated these gangs. Other than being of Pakistani heritage, what is the commonality? It might be that they went to the same school. People sloppily call them Muslims, but are they Muslims? I don't know. They could be Pakistani Christians." No, they couldn't. The names of the perpetrators alone indicate that they're Muslims. There are no Pakistani Christian rape gangs. It is a shame that Sarah Champion has received death threats for her tepid and half-true remarks, But she is actually an indication of the terrible state Britain is in today. Everyone is willfully blind, and one person with one eye is lauded as far-seeing. So Gerard Batten has now stated what no one else dares to say in Britain today for fear of committing political suicide. And Britain is so far gone at this point that Batten's hope of having a political future may be as dim as the prospect of Britain surviving as a free society. I'm Robert Spencer, a Shillman Fellow for the David Horowitz Freedom Center and Director of Jihad Watch. This video has been brought to you by the Center for Security Policy.